Hey everybody, Nova here. I'm back with another wintertime vlog in which I'll update you on my plans for the season to come and some of my thoughts on what's been going on lately. Let's get into it. Alright, we'll start off with my plans for the 2023 season. I do intend to compete as much as I can, however there have been a few changes in the way the DGPT and the PDGA do things. So I'm not going to be everywhere that you've seen me in previous years. For example, because I did not transition at the age of 12 back in 1982, I am banned from FPO at all DGPT events. You will not see me at Jonesboro Open, DDO, the Kansas City Wide Open, which is a Silver Series this year, or the Des Moines Challenge. I can't go. The DGPT is now just the DGP because there's no T allowed. And on that topic, because the DGPT has taken such a strong and hard line on this matter, I encourage you to boycott the DGPT. It is the No Trans Disc Golf Tour, and you shouldn't watch it. And you should unsubscribe from the DGN. Because of the wording of the new policy for eligibility for gender-protected divisions, my status is technically up in the air at the moment. I'll explain why. Because I had the good fortune to transition, including surgery, about 20 years ago, I had been in a pretty good place by the previous policy, and because I transitioned 20 years ago, which means my sources of testosterone, and you know what I mean, were gone 20 years ago, I've not been doing blood tests every 3 months to test for the testosterone level in my bloodstream because I don't have testosterone makers, and I haven't had them for 2 decades. And up until 2 weeks ago, that was pretty good. PDGA was good with that. I reached out a few years ago and I said, hey, PDGA, this is the situation. And the PDGA said, cool, go for it. And I said, okay. With the new policy, and let's get into it, under section C2, gender affirming surgery, it reads that the player must have successfully completed male to female gender affirming surgery with a declaration from a physician. Got it. I kept that letter from the doctor way back in 2003. It's still in my filing cabinet. And then a total testosterone level in serum has been below 2 nanomoles per liter for at least 24 months prior to the PDGA event. This is a combination of blood tests verified by hormone treatment pre-surgery and time post-surgery. And now for me, the last 24 months have all been post-surgery, because for me, the last 20 years have all been post-surgery. Honestly, I have not been doing the blood tests because I don't want to get stuck in the arm every 3 months and go to pay for a doctor's visit and pay for the labs to test for something that's simply not there. There are some internet scientists out there who'll be like, well, you know, your adrenal glands put out a tiny bit of testosterone too. Yeah, that's true. Mine do. So do cis women's. It's not a lot. It's definitely not going to rise to this 2.0 nanomoles per liter threshold. However, because of the way the policy is written, I was in a bit of a bind because I didn't see this policy coming. I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not psychic. I didn't have a crystal ball. So 2 years ago, I did not look into the future and say, hey, there's this policy coming in 2 years, so I'd better start doing all my blood tests now so that in 2 years, I'll be eligible to compete in disc golf. It's a ridiculous idea to even contemplate. So I reached out to the PDGA and said, hey, because I was open and honest with you and I was living openly as transgender, and you know I'm transgender, am I now penalized for not being a mind reader and having 2 years of backdated receipts of blood tests? The medical board got back to me, and this is what they wrote. They wrote, after review with PDGA staff, we would need for you to submit the following to medical@pdga.com. Obtain a testosterone level and submit results to verify the level is below 2.0 nanomoles per liter. Okay, fine. I'll spend the money. I'm going to go to my doctor in about a week and get a blood sample taken out of my arm, and they're going to mail it off to a lab and measure the testosterone. And this is going to cost me money for the office visit because my insurance is Garbo, and this is going to cost me money for the lab test, and we're going to prove the obvious. Thanks for making me jump through these hoops, PDGA. It's amazing. It feels great. The second part of the letter reads, I must also provide a letter from one of your physicians stating, as if I have multiple physicians. I barely have one physician. The state of healthcare for trans people in this country is a disgrace. A letter from one of your physicians stating that your testosterone level was likely lower than 2 nanomoles per liter for the past 24 months based on your prior history. In other words, get the doctor to write a letter that says, based on you not having the equipment to make testosterone for the last 20 years, do you think it's likely that blood testosterone level was sufficiently low over the last 24 months? If so, say so in a letter. Which means I've got to go to my doctor, explain to my doctor this new PDGA requirement, convince them to write this letter, and the whole time my doctor's just going to be face palming at me. They're going to be like, really? Is this a thing I have to do? Really? I went to medical school and now I have to send a note as a doctor to other doctors saying this woman hasn't had testes for 20 years, so I'm pretty sure there's no testosterone in her bloodstream for the last 2 years. So yeah, I'm going to have to waste my doctor's time with that. Good job, medical board. As a result of the PDGA's disastrous new policy, I've heard from a few people that they cannot in good conscience continue to be a member of the organization. Others have said that they cannot pay membership dues or other fees which go to the PDGA because the organization does not deserve their money. I have heard from yet others that the new policy and the published results of the flawed membership survey have so demoralized them that they question whether the sport of disc golf is even for them at all, whether that's in organized competition or casually. All of these are valid positions, and I endorse each of you doing what you think is best. I'd like to make a case for why I am staying and competing and why I think some others may stay. I'm not saying that anyone else should necessarily be doing what I'm doing, just why I am doing what I am doing. You do you. Here's why I'm staying and playing. For people who don't know, transgender people have a fraught relationship with institutions, and by institutions I mean schools, school boards, doctors, hospitals, the law, the courts. We are generally mistrustful of these organizations because when it comes down to it, they don't have our back. So we don't put our faith in organizations to do the right thing for us. We put our faith in our chosen family, our friends and loved ones who support us and understand us and have our back, and we can lean on them and we can go to them for help. So the PDGA suddenly doing this 180 and kicking me out of FPO at majors, and the DGPT completely kicking me off the tour. This betrayal is not super shocking to me. It's not my first rodeo. You know, the day the DGPT and the PDGA broke your heart might have been the worst day of your life, but for me and for many trans people, it was just Tuesday. I already existed. I already live in a state of tension with institutions and organizations. So one more organization in my life being terrible is not that much of an additional psychic burden to me. Living while trans and knowing that organizations don't really have my back, it's just part of the background radiation of being transgender in this culture. So one more organization being terrible at me. Not really the end of my world. All right, moving on. I am in the pre-production phases of the second season of Nova's One Disc Video Anthology of Putters. I'm going to be making another 10 episodes this winter of my series in which I take a single putter and a particular kind of plastic out to a 9-hole course, and I play a whole round using just that putter. I'm going to do that with 10 different putters this winter, and it'll be 10 that you didn't see in Season 1. I've already ordered up some of the discs, and here's 4 of them to give you a sneak preview. Cosmic Electron Proxy, Firm Electron Streamline Pilot, Neutron Ion, R2 Recycled Special Edition Nomad. That's 4 of the 10 discs I'll be putting on display. I don't want to say reviewing because I'm sponsored by the team, so it's not really an honest review. I definitely have an agenda. These are 4 of the 10 discs that I will be presenting in the Nova's One Disc Video Anthology of Putters Season 2, coming in the next couple of weeks, real soon. Keep an eye on my YouTube channel for that. All right, in other news, I am representing Maverick Disc Golf again in 2023, both as a sponsored player and as an occasional tournament director. Maverick Disc Golf is a quality shop owned and operated by one of the finest human beings I know, a fellow who was not born automatically knowing all the right answers, but who has instead followed a seemingly instinctual passion for the principles of empathy and goodwill, and he follows them wherever they lead. And as a result, he always gets the important questions of humanity right. I'm damned proud to call Rob Martin my friend. Now go buy something from him. Okay, over the past couple of weeks, I've been seeing a lot of the same anti-trans talking points and arguments online, and they're really common. So I thought I would go make an anti-trans talking point bingo card. There's a link to the image in the video description if you want to get your own bingo card and play along when you're online having discourse. Please be my guest. I am shocked how easy it was to fill out the bingo card because it's 5x5, that's 25 spaces, which means I had to come up with 25 unique and terrible anti-trans talking points that I've heard way too often online. And I thought it would be hard. I thought I'd get to like 10 or 12 or 15 and start to peter out and really be scratching my head going, oh, how do I finish this bingo card? But then I got going and I took a look back through some old discussions online and I was done in like 5 minutes. Just boom, 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 boom. There are so many bad talking points out there. It was shockingly easy to make this bingo card. Go check it out. All right, buckle up. I want to talk about the free square in the middle of the bingo card because it's the most common take I hear and read and see, and it's also the most tiresome one. It goes like this: I support transgender people or LGBT people in every way, and I'm an ally, and I want for them to live their lives in whatever way they please. But I don't think trans women should play in the gender-protected divisions. At least for the marginally more thoughtful commenters, that's what they say. The dumber ones just give up the game and say something obviously stupid like, I don't think trans women should play against real women. I hope I don't have to explain why that is terrible and obviously stupid. So let's back up and address why I'm an ally, but I don't want trans women in FPO is a contradictory statement and literally a toddler-level discourse on the topic of discrimination. And as a brief aside, not everyone who writes or comments, I'm an ally and I support trans women, but I don't think trans women should play in women's disc golf, is telling the truth. I really don't. For some portion, they absolutely know that they want to discriminate against trans people, and that they want to exclude trans people, and that they want to hurt trans people. And framing themselves as an ally is a deliberate lie, a fig leaf to disguise themselves and to sow chaos. For the rest of this discussion, I'm not talking about those deliberately malevolent people. I'm talking about the people who think they're nice people, good allies, supporters of trans rights, you know, except for that whole playing women's disc golf thing, or more broadly, that whole playing women's sports thing. If you think you're a good ally, and you also think that trans women should just be trans somewhere else, it's not necessarily your fault that you think something so stupid. Our culture and our schools really don't teach a nuanced understanding of discrimination. Let's think back to elementary school. I'm sure everyone remembers the discrimination or prejudice lesson in grade school, when the teacher taught the class a lesson to the children at the grade school level. These very basic lessons usually revolve around simple verbal bullying. It's a simple lesson intended for children. The teacher would maybe call a child a bad name, or divide the class into sides and have one side call the other side bad names, or even single out two children and ask one to role-play calling the other one a bad name. Then they talk about it. How did it feel to be called a bad name? It feels bad. Do you want to make people feel bad? Hopefully no. Be a good child and don't call the other children bad names. To make the lesson as politically bland and uncontroversial as possible, instead of boys, don't call girls by sexist slurs, or white children, don't call brown or black children racist slurs, or straight children, don't call queer children homophobic slurs. It's often watered down to just, it feels bad when someone calls you a bad name, so don't call other children bad names. It's not nice. It's a lesson so simple it can be taught to toddlers, and unfortunately, for most people, it's the last lesson on discrimination they ever learn. Bad children call other children bad names. Good children don't call other children by bad names. But we're not children, and discrimination is more than just what slurs you say or don't say to other people. It's vastly more complicated than that. It's an adult topic, and yet most people frame their understanding of it and their self-evaluation in those toddlers' terms because that's all they were ever taught. I don't say and I don't say so I'm an LGBT ally. Discrimination is a pattern of exclusion and prejudice, of desiring to be separate and superior to another kind of people because you think of them as less than you, and treating other kinds of people with suspicion or with less empathy because they're not like you. The toddler's understanding of discrimination leads directly to the terrible discourse quoted in the middle of the bingo card. I don't say bad things about trans people, so I'm an ally. But the sentence doesn't stop there with a period. It's not, I don't say bad things, so I'm an ally. It has the word but and a comma, and there's more. And what comes after that comma is pure, uncut discrimination. I support trans women, and I want them to live their lives as they wish, but I don't think they should play an FPO. What this means is that you support trans women and want them to live their lives as they wish, but not in the way that inconveniences you with their proximity to you in the sport that you play. You want them to live their lives as they wish somewhere else. That's textbook discrimination and exclusion. You don't want trans women around you. You demand that we be somewhere else. And as an aside, since we were already here, you are effectively demanding that we go away. And to some extent, you got your wish 2 weeks ago. And let's take this a step further, because I can already hear you rebutting that disc golf is just one small sport. It's just one tiny facet of life. So it's not a big deal. This is just disc golf. You can just go away in disc golf. Not a big deal. But that perverse logic, that attempt to diminish away or rationalize away the effect of the discrimination in disc golf can be applied to every little tiny facet of life. And it is relentlessly, no matter the sport or the public accommodation or the profession or anything else. People say that they support transgender people and want them to live the happy lives just somewhere else. You know, shopping somewhere else where people don't have to see us, or doing other hobbies away from you, or working somewhere else in some other job, or living somewhere else. Hell, even peeing somewhere else. In every case, it is demanded of us that we make some small sacrifice, that we bear the burden of going away, that we give up yet just a little bit more. When every place is like that, then no place is for us. We are left with nowhere. When you say that you support trans women and want us to live our lives in any way we wish, just not in women's disc golf, then you are 100% in favor of discrimination within the topic of trans women in disc golf. And if disc golf is the only thing we are talking about, then you are being 100% exclusionary and 0% ally. And your supposed bona fides elsewhere aren't worth a damned thing. You're not calling anyone slurs. So I guess that makes you a good child. But your demand that a group of people live their lives out of your sight somewhere else betrays the lie of your claim to be an ally. When you say that transgender women should not play disc golf in the women's divisions, you are, perhaps unwittingly, an active participant in the society-wide network of discrimination against transgender women. You are not being an ally, and you are not an ally. You are actively contributing to society-wide discrimination. That's a heavy dose of medicine to swallow. I get it. Nobody likes being told that their self-constructed image is not necessarily true. Nobody likes being criticized. And it hurts double when the criticism happens to be true. If you're feeling mad and you are ready to give me a good thrashing in the comments, I suggest instead that you examine why you feel so mad and maybe channel that energy into learning more about discrimination and becoming a more well-rounded adult. If you must give your misplaced anger to me, if you are so determined, then know now that I will not accept your gift of anger. Public school didn't teach me much about discrimination. I had to go look for the knowledge and comprehension as an adult and play catch up. And because of the position I'm in, I had to learn it most urgently because it was being done to me on the regular. I had to understand this new world I was navigating. If you're an ally, but then you have the luxury of learning more at your own pace. And I hope I've inspired you to start. You're on the internet. I will post a few links of places to start learning in the video description. Okay, wow, that was fun. Let's summarize this really quick. 2023, I'll be competing. I'll be defending my world champion title in FP50 because I'm allowed to do so. I will not be competing in the DGPT because I'm essentially banned from FPO. I suggest everybody boycott the DGPT and boycott DGN. They don't deserve your money. Some of you are boycotting the PDGA or leaving disc golf. That's your decision, and I respect that. I'm staying because this is where my friends are, and I will be damned if I let the PDGA get between me and my friends. I see my friends and the people who I love when I'm out playing tournaments, and I'll see you there next time.